Hello, I'm Beverly Copeland. This is the Beverly Copeland Report. This show is accessible on YouTube under the Beverly Copeland Report. You can also view my show on YouTube under the Beverly Copeland Report. Today is Sunday, July the 24th, 2016. Today is Sunday, July the 24th, 2016. I have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to have to talk fast. First, I'd like to frame the discussion this way. As someone who, as an undergraduate, had completed two majors at an Ivy League university, I can tell you that, and one of them being philosophy, because I have studied the Western philosophers from the pre-Socratic philosophers of antiquity up through the feminist scholars, philosophers of this century, the 21st century. And a major failing I have discovered in Western thinking, and philosophy is the foundation on which everything else in a society is built. Mathematics, law, arts, culture, science, technology, everything is built on, has as its underpinnings philosophy. And by the way, the greatest philosopher of all, Western philosophy of all, was a man who was illiterate. I'm going to repeat that. The greatest thinker, the greatest philosopher, Western philosopher, is a man who was illiterate. He could not read and he could not write. But what Socrates could do was think. Think. It is far more important skill to be able to think, to be able to process information, than it is to be able to repeat information, rehash, repeat. You can literally get a bird brain to repeat something. You get a parrot, probably want a cracker. You could get literally a bird brain to repeat something, to read something and repeat it, So Socrates is known, any philosophy major will tell you, he is considered the father of Western philosophical thinking. And he was a man who was illiterate. He could not read or write, but he could think. To his students' credit, like Plato, they did give their teacher Socrates credit. That is why we know his contribution to Western thought, Western philosophy, because his students, most notably Plato, gave Socrates credit for his ideas. However, moving right along. So the major flaw in Western thinking is zero-sum thinking. If one side wins, the other side has to lose. Rich, poor, white, black, women, men, gay, straight. That is fundamental to Western thinking. And it's in my opinion, as someone who has studied Western philosophy from the pre-Socratic philosophers of antiquity up through the feminist scholars of this century, our century, the 21st century, that is the major flaw in Western thinking. It's either one or the other, not or both, or not. It's either or, zero sum. Now, the Buddhists take a different approach, right? The Dalai Lama, for example, talks about oneness, one. So if it's in the interest of one, not them, us, not zero-sum thinking. I might add, I was glad to see at was just checking it out, Giuliani at the conventions just a few days ago said, "One America." What happened to one America? I don't know if but anyway, moving right along. Now, so that is my framing it in this discussion. I don't have much time. I have to move along. And then the other thing, as someone as I did, I have 2 graduate degrees in business, and I dropped out of a PhD program in economics, I can tell you that the level of dysfunction that we find in these United States of America mark the end of empire. No civilization, no society, no empire has ever been able to sustain this level of dysfunction and survive. Therefore, I can say to you that the Bronx, New York, where I currently live, is a microcosm for the fall of the American empire. It really, truly is. It's a microcosm for the fall of the American empire. And again, no society has ever, as someone who dropped out of a PhD program in economics, no society has ever been able to sustain the level of dysfunction that we find in places like the Bronx or in the inner cities or even the rural and even suburban and other urban areas in this country. It has never been done before. Historically, there are two typical responses to this level of dysfunction in order to revive an empire. One is the draconian approach of Adolf Hitler, and then there was the approach of Chairman Mao, and both Hitler being on the far right, and then Chairman Mao being on the far left, a communist. And his approach was, whatever your issue is, because he said he could not build a communist socialist society with the level of dysfunction that he found in China, because it was like America. It's like America. In order to colonize China during World War II, vast China, little Japan, turned the country into a country of opium addicts, the same way Americans have been turned into addicts, with all the associated dysfunction, criminality, etc. Sodom and Gomorrah, Orwellian sewer, human garbage dump, whatever metaphor you want to use to describe it. So Chairman Mao said, understanding that, and anybody who's studied economics like I have understands it too, you cannot build a civilization on this level of dysfunction. There have been two responses historically to try to revive a fallen empire. One, the approach of the Nazis, and then Chairman Mao, far right and far left, Chairman Mao. And Chairman Mao said, Chiang Kai-shek was pulling out his hair. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't do anything to stabilize China. But when Chairman Mao took over China, he said, listen, whatever your issue is, dope, pedophilia, kleptomania, whatever, prostitute, whatever. He said, Chairman Mao said, whatever your issue is, if you are able to overcome it cold turkey without any help, then you can join my communist socialist society. If you cannot, however, Chairman Mao was clear, he was going to execute you. You would be surprised, literally billions of people, whatever their issue was, overnight, they got over it, which is akin to what's going on to this very day in United States prisons. Some people commit horrific crimes, murder their mothers, whatever, they end up in the to get money for dope. They get in the penitentiary, they don't have access to the dope, they lose their craving for the dope. It's like they never used dope. That's how a lot of things are in the mind. Chairman Mao understood that. So then, the minute they get out of the prison, they can be in prison for 10, 15, 20 years, never have a craving for dope. The minute they get out, they give them that bus ticket to go to their mothers, their girlfriends, whatever. The craving kicks in all over again. They gotta have so then they go out and they commit horrific crimes and they end right back up in the penitentiary. Not under Chairman Mao. Whatever it was, you get over it. If not, he was going to execute you. And they knew Chairman Mao was serious. He was going to execute him. So they got literally billions of people got over whatever the issue was. They got over it. So, by analogy in the United States of America, because it has been the policy of the people responsible for the governance of America to turn vast swaths of the population into an underclass, a dysfunctional underclass, that has been the policy. of a heartless, ruthless underclass who, in places like the Bronx, it's rigged for them to work with rogue cops, rogue attorneys, rogue people in healthcare to defraud squeaky clean, law-abiding citizens like me and my late mother out of our assets, out of our resources. This is common knowledge. The Bronx is designed to destroy you, either by making you permanent underclass and a junkie. In order to get help from the government, you have to be typically dysfunctional. Typically, they become dysfunctional addicts because that's the only way that they can get help from the government. And then productive members of society like me and my mother, they use that element, that criminal element, working with rogue cops, rogue people in healthcare, etc., lawyers, etc., to appropriate our assets, our hard-earned assets. So I had no business trying to retire to the Bronx. I'm trying to get the hell out as fast as I can because I'm not going to be like my mother, sit and turn the other cheek. And then they, end up being dead. And, my assets are my retirement. I get close to the maximum Social Security. I have a pension benefits from my employment, and like being a senior government official, assistant commissioner for the city of New York, being deputy chairman of the business administration department at a division of the City University of New York, etc., etc. And so, I have a 401k. Annually, I take money out of that. But every month, I get my pension annuity, my Social Security. Every month, like clockwork, I have it direct deposited to my checking account. And then every month, I have that. And then once a year, I have a deposit from my 401k IRA. So I'm a sitting duck, like my mother was a sitting duck, working with criminals, heartless criminals in my family. They are trying to steal my wealth, my assets, my retirement, and, more importantly, my museum quality fine art collection. So, I'm getting out of the Bronx. Respect is non-negotiable. Too much bad blood. It's just like, this is why a white person in my demographic, a distinguished, accomplished Ivy League graduate, alone, no children, alone, wouldn't move to the Bronx because they'd be a sitting duck too. The criminals would try to steal everything. They knock them off and steal everything they had too. So it's an insult for anyone to expect me to stay here given what was done to my mother and given what has happened to me subsequent to my returning to the Bronx. I am somebody. Black Lives Matter. So the government has created this underclass, this monster, because instead of stabilizing people, right? People who, let's say, using the model that they used like in Holland, the Dutch model, where if you're not employed, you can't find employment. The government doesn't force you to self-destruct, become an addict in order to get help. You can be like a leisure class, like a leisure class, drug-free leisure class. It's cheaper on society that way, and it's healthier too. But these people are heartless criminals. They are heartless criminals. Not only because they're on dope, but they are just heartless criminals. And I am a sitting duck, squeaky clean, distinguished Ivy League graduate, comfortable retirement, and museum quality fine art collection like a white person would be. So I have to get out. It's a question of self-respect. They're heartless. These criminals are heartless. Like my brother and sister, they're heartless. And it's an open secret, I didn't know till I came back, that is precisely what they do. They work with rogue cops, they work with rogue lawyers, rogue prosecutors, rogue people in healthcare and landlords, etc., to steal squeaky clean people like me, a sitting duck's property. Get rid of us, railroad us to institutions, nursing or whatever, and to steal our property. Can pay a few doctors' salaries with a museum-quality fine art collection. No doubt, no doubt. My mother, at 90 years old, her largest asset was her home. She owned it free and clear. I'm not saying anything that's not true. I'm keeping it real. And they are heartless. These criminals are heartless. Heartless. So I have to get out. I have no sympathy for them. I have no sympathy whatsoever. A conservative on crime is a liberal who has been mugged. I'm going to repeat that. A conservative on crime is a liberal who has been mugged. I have no sympathy whatsoever for them. Because they're heartless. And so we can't use the Nazi approach. Not America wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think they're going to use that. They wouldn't use Chairman Mao's approach, no. But I know they're going to do something because the developers want to develop the Bronx. Location, location, location. And this thing's going cycle, and they're tired of the suburbs. It's expensive. And people aren't, all those good jobs to support the suburban lifestyle have dried up. You got to take your car just to get a container of milk. You got to drive your car. So that gets very expensive, and the heating and yada, yada, yada. And the commuting fees, to pay your monthly commuting ticket, Metro North, Long Island, that's very expensive. So that people want to come back to the cities now. So places like the Bronx are hot for developers. So isn't it ironic, therefore, that the cleanup of the Bronx, right, of this crime-infested dysfunction, it's going to be the capitalists who do it. I'm a proud and a bare supporter of Anglo-Saxon Western capitalism. They're going to clean up the mess that the social welfare system has created. The politicians, the prosecutors, the cops, the crooked cops, prosecutors, healthcare, they're going to clean it up. The capitalists, the developers, because they want to develop the Bronx, right? So in order for people like me to move in, they're going to have to clean it up, because I came and I'm getting the hell out as fast as I can find something. I'm not going from the frying pan to the fire. So isn't it ironic that the capitalist class are going to clean up this mess, the sewer, Orwellian sewer? They're going to clean it up. Now, are they going to take the approach of Hitler? I don't think so. Chairman Mao? No. So what are they going to do? I would think they're going to hang over their heads, not cut them loose, let them out jail, but they're going to send them to jail. And the jail they're going to make it such a horrible thing that a lot of these Negroes are going to be scared into whatever their thing is, getting over it. Not selling the methadone, but taking it. Because they're going to make the prison is going to be such a horrific experience. They're not going to cut people out. They're going to make it you check in too and you don't check out. Horrific experience, and a lot of these Negroes are going to get their stuff together. The mind is a powerful thing. That's what I think is going to happen. That's going to put them in prison, make prison such a horrific, horrible experience. That's going to scare a lot of these Negroes. They won't need immigrants. I personally guarantee if they made prisons horrible enough, the United States of America wouldn't need any more immigrants, because the locals, the citizens, the Americans will get their act together. Just like under Chairman Mao, they got their act together under the threat of execution. And under the threat of going to the white man's dungeon, a lot of these Negroes would, etc., would get their act together if they made it horrific enough. That's called, because they have to do something. So I'm a proud and a bare supporter of Anglo-Saxon Western capitalism, because ironically, it is the capitalist class, the developers, who are going to clean up this mess. They are not charities. Capitalists are not charities. They're not in the business of giving money away. They're in the business of making money. They're driven by the profit motive. They're not in the business of wasting money on dysfunction. No, so they're going to be, so they would be the impetus in cleaning up places like the Bronx. And the sooner they do, the better. Because this level of dysfunction has metastasized all over the United States. For example, you cannot go to one American city, town, village, suburb, exurb, urban area and not find a family that doesn't have members who have been destroyed by substance abuse. I'm going to repeat that. You cannot go to any American city, town, village, suburb, exurb, whatever, rural area, any state, Idaho, New Mexico, Montana, whatever, Virginia, Georgia, Vermont, Washington State, Utah, all 50 of the 50 states that make up the United States of America have been destroyed by the people responsible for governance, not by the capitalists. They're going to clean up the mess. But by the people who are responsible for the governance of this country, they have destroyed it. They have destroyed it. With policies like, in order to get help from the government, if you can't find employment, you have to self-destruct, become a dysfunctional addict in order to get help from the government. Policies like that. Special ed, all of that. But these criminals are heartless in the Bronx. If I had known how heartless they are, I never would have come back. They are heartless. I never would have come back. I'm a strong black woman. I'm a lesbian, so I'm a strong black woman. But even for me, it's too much. I have to get out as fast as I can. Because they're like vultures, buzzards flying overhead, ready to pick my pockets clean. What do I have? My fine art collection and my pensions and my Social Security. They're heartless. But they are programmed not only to do it to me, strangers, to their own mothers. They are programmed to take everything even that their own mothers have. That's how heartless the criminal element is. The underclass criminal element is. So the capitalists are going to clean up places like the Bronx because they want to develop it. Let me say this too. The next election, the upcoming presidential election in November, it would be beyond naive, it would be stupid for the American people to think that if they elect any of the candidates running and there is no Watergate to force them to change gears, to shift gears, that's not going to be the same business. It'll be the same. It is going to go on and on and on until America can no longer print money. America does not have money. This country is broke. So what America is doing is printing money. You can't print money indefinitely. Eventually, the people who are buying or accepting that money or not, the international community is not going to no longer going to accept the dollar. They're not going to accept it. Then they're going to try to raise interest. It's going to be a disaster, and the whole thing is going to implode because you cannot print money indefinitely. In many respects, America is like pre-Nazi Germany. It's like Weimar Germany. Inflation is through the roof, but we live in an Orwellian society. And we're told that inflation is down. Up is down. The unemployment is low. Inflation is down. Crime is down. That's Orwellian. That's lunacy. Anyone who has eyes can see that it's not down. Unemployment is through. We are in a depression worse than the last Great Depression. However, its impact is muted because of the media and because we have now in place a social welfare infrastructure. Welfare, pension, Social Security, disability. We have food pantries. We have food stamps. We have public housing. We have so many things that we didn't have during the last Great Depression that we have today. So the government is able to get away with lying about how bad unemployment is, etc., because the impact of it is muted. However, it is worse than the levels in the last depression. But you say, how can it be? Because the way the government reports things like unemployment has changed. They keep shifting things. They keep changing the way they report things. And so just common sense. Any economist will tell you, when they come up with the unemployment rate, they don't count every American who's unemployed. They do a statistical sample. And the statistical sample is skewed to the point where it's garbage. It's not meaningful in any economic sense to suggest that employment is much lower than it is, because of the sampling methodology used by the government to report unemployment, housing starts. Everything is just up is down, down is up. But all of this is going to come crashing down when the international community no longer accepts the dollar. So you can be printing the money, but nobody's going to accept it. Then the whole thing is going to implode. And then America will be too late. Then America will be truly a fallen empire, and there'll be a mass exodus out of here. Absolutely. And we are reaching that point. The thing that America could do, be proactive, not be passive and just wait for that to happen, because that's what we're waiting for. The international community to refuse to accept the dollar as a means of method of payment or a viable currency, and then for the whole system American empire to implode like a third world country collapsing when the currency collapses. And then the only good thing about that vis-a-vis the rest of the world, then America will no longer be able to promote neocon wars or any of this, all of these horrible, terrible things that the United States is promoting around the world, because it will be a fallen empire when the dollar crashes, and it's looming, and it is inevitable. Alternatively, America could Watergate the bastards, the Democrats, the Republicans, etc., Wall Street, the people responsible for destroying this country. So we could be proactive and Watergate them, and if we want the next president to be effective in straightening out the mess, we would have to Watergate those people who are entrenched in the system responsible for destroying this country. As a proud, unabashed supporter of Anglo-Saxon Western capitalism, I could never, ever again be a Republican or a Democrat. I am too much of a patriot to ever again be a Republican or a Democrat. They have destroyed this country with total impunity. The thing to do is to Watergate them. And it is sick for anyone to expect me to have anything to do with the people on Wall Street, the people at the Federal Reserve, the people in the Congress who have engineered this economic collapse. And I say engineered. To steal the global economy pennies on the dollar, not for Jews. Oh, that's sick. Not for Jews. They're going to be the number one scapegoats because the people who engineered it are Jewish. Whether Wall Street, the government, Federal Reserve, whatever. They're the number. I've run out of time. But it's sick, especially for a Jew, to expect me to have anything to do with those people. It's a moot point. I can't. I'm old, retired, sick, and burnt out. I'm Beverly Copeland. This has been the Beverly Copeland Report. You can check it out on YouTube.